9/11 is an inside job. And Clinton said, 9/11 was not an inside job. 9/11 was an Osama bin Laden job. Now, one of the points I could not make it at Alternet, and we went back and forth about this, was the FBI Most Wanted list. For some reason, my editor would not recognize the importance of the fact that Osama bin Laden is not on the FBI Most Wanted list for 9/11. He's there for the 98 embassy bombings, but 9/11 is not there because the FBI told Ed Haas at Muckraker Report he's not on the Most Wanted list because we just don't have enough evidence to convict Osama, or to indict. We don't have enough concrete evidence to indict Osama for 9/11. That's extremely interesting. My editor at Alternet had all these different rationalizations of why Osama could still be guilty, and maybe the FBI just didn't want to indict him, and it just tortured liberal logic. Remember Treason in America last spring? Some of you were there. Treason in America, big conference. And I don't know if it's a coincidence, but that same flipping weekend, this crazy dude, John Patrick Bedell, shot some people at the Pentagon and then himself was shot dead. And he made no statements. Police said he made no statements at the time. And then over that weekend of Treason in America, we had a big conference. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer from Able Danger was even making a statement. This is huge. If you understand 9/11, Schaefer doesn't usually come out and speak at a conference or even give a statement via video. So I saw this as a form of propaganda against us, coming directly from the U.S. power structure, the Pentagon shooter as truth or scapegoat. So the police said he made no statement then, but then later there was this extremely tenuous link via the internet. Somebody found something that made him into a 9/11 truther. So this psycho killer suddenly became a 9/11 truther. Almost done, folks. Cass Sunstein. Does everybody know the Cass Sunstein quote? Comes directly from Obama's team. He wrote a paper in 2008. It just came public in January. Turns out Cass Sunstein wants the government to infiltrate the 9/11 truth movement. He wrote a paper called Conspiracy Theories. He says that we need government agents or independent agents, independent people, hired guns for the CIA or the DIA or whoever, to infiltrate online social networks or even real space groups, like the one that you are now a part of right now in this room. Attempt to undermine percolating conspiracy theories by raising doubts about their factual premises, causal logic, or implications for political action. Now that's really interesting. The government is actually trying to stymie political action. That seems like the government is trying to stymie your First Amendment right to peaceably assemble and petition the government for a redress of grievances, if I could quote the First Amendment. It's not a conspiracy. Oh, it's a conspiracy on their part in the sense that they are breathing together to commit a crime. That's right. And that's the Bill of Rights, I think, acknowledges the humanness of human government, and that we have a tendency to be authoritarian and totalitarian. And the real gutsy, difficult work is the work that is to do democracy, to do peace, to do honesty, and so I think that is the more American thing, the more progressive thing, the more revolutionary thing, is to not give in to the totalitarian, authoritarian tendency that the Bill of Rights sort of acknowledges is throughout the history of humanity. So other forms of censorship. Jesse Ventura, of course, was kicked off the Huffington Post. It's a really messed up blog, Huffington Post. And I have to confess that I feel like a whore for being in the religion department. They started a new religion department. I applied to be an intern there at age 39 because I need a job so bad. And they refused to make me an intern, but they gave me a blog. So I've been blogging about religious issues, mostly being a lefty Catholic and Christian, but I'll tell you what it's like. I thought I'd be really subtle and interview my co-presenter tonight, Reverend Ian Alterman, about his form of direct action Christianity and how God is truth. And he knows a lot about interfaith connections to truth and to God, and so it was a great interview. And if people weren't laughing at you, I'd tell you to shut up. But hey, you're keeping it moving. All right. There comes my totalitarian side coming out once again. All right, so Anyway, to make a long story short, I feel like I'm writing for like a late period Soviet censor, because I tried to get this link to the truth gathering into the story, and it was there for a couple of days. But then after a couple of days, I took that link out of that story, and they removed my bio that said I was the founder of the Truth Party, and now I'm no longer allowed to even identify myself as the founder of the Truth Party on Huffington Post. It's a pretty creepy situation, and I'm sure it'll all end in tears and a big denunciation of the Huffington Post on my part, but cool. All right, thank you. I am wrapping it up. Okay, there's also been two things from this war on us that I wanted to mention. Chip Berlet's story, very irresponsibly written, but this guy's a pretty serious progressive with connections to the Ford Foundation, and the Southern Poverty Law Center list of patriots. The Southern Poverty Law Center recently came out with this list of people to kind of that all good citizens should watch out for. And I was shocked to see my friend Luke Rudowski on that list, just for being the founder of We Are Change. So it really shows a kind of a form of insanity on the part of the establishment progressive left, that they would be so into demonizing the Tea Party and so into demonizing patriots who are questioning official stories that they would create a blacklist. And this is not just a progressive nonprofit, but this is a list that is, they have a history of working with law enforcement and infiltrating the Klan or working against the Klan. And that's all good work, but it's a pretty big jump from the Ku Klux Klan to Luke Rudowski, whose group We Are Change is named after the axiom from Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world. So we can also look at the resistance in the courts that NYC Can got. I touched on that earlier. Don Masurlian in New Jersey is a very interesting activist who has been trying to get misprision of treason laws recognized by his local courts. It's one strategy. I've talked a lot about how God is truth and the religion is on our side. So this is actually a big jump, I know, for the atheists in the room and the people that are not spiritual. But I think for those who are spiritual and who have this talent, I think it's something that we really need to nurture, because if we are going to be advocates for this fire of truth, we have to realize that we have lots of connections out there to people who are reading Holy Scriptures that are full of references to truth. Like Ian said in his interview, truth is the third most popular word in Psalms and Proverbs. So my strategy these days has been to back away from where I was at a year ago, kind of begging the socialist partisan left to accept us, to validate us. And I think that is, we've proven in Pittsburgh and in Cambridge that that's a failed strategy. And that means we shouldn't, that doesn't mean we should stop trying altogether. But I think that they'll come to us when we stop begging them to recognize us. So I think it's kind of like nobody really respects a beggar, but people respect people with autonomy. So I think if the 9/11 Truth Movement can become more of a movement unto itself. Yes, we're part of the anti-war movement, we're part of the peace movement, but we don't necessarily need the imprimatur of these extremely sectarian, angry, anti-truth movement people. And I say this from personal experience, and it's very different from where I was. So the heroes of our movement are people like Jesus Christ, who stood up against empire of Rome with a new vision for the kingdom of love, for debt forgiveness and mercy. And one of the best books about Jesus and his war on or his struggle against empire is actually Christian Faith and the Truth Behind 9/11 by David Ray Griffin. Which gets us to Gandhi. Gandhi was doing direct action, using nonviolence to disrupt the British Empire, using Satyagraha of Truth Force. And also, let's not forget Karl Marx, who Mr. Zaremka has made other presentations in which we talk about Marx's relationship to wanting to know the truth. And it was actually, my flyer at the Left Forum this year was Marx equals truther. And if you read the 18th Brumaire of Louis Napoleon, Marx was definitely interested in the way bourgeois power uses subterfuge and terror to accomplish its goals. However, the real hero is the history of the mass movement. The movement for civil rights, the movement for suffrage, movement against war and empire in this country. So who is this Truth Party? Well, I think we meet a need for expression for this mass movement. We're left and right, we're spiritual and secular, we're all classes, all races, all politics. Actually, that's a little bit too general, I think, but we'll expand that at dinner. But our paradigm has to be unity and not sectarianism. And I share this with other lefties in history, that we have to get away from sectarianism and get away from any paradigm of reality that is losing relevance. So the next step, I believe, is the Truth Party. I believe we should eventually run candidates for office. I think this is something that would help the public profile of the Truth Movement. It would help energize the party. It would show that the Truth Movement is not just a movement, but a whole new model for politics. So let's repeat the takeaway points that I wanted you to leave today with. That it's time for a new era for 9/11 Truth. It's time for Truth 2.0. It's time for not just 9/11 Truth, it's time for 9/11 Justice, because we've named the crime, and the crime is treason. And it's time for 3 simple virtues that can unite people: peace, truth, and freedom.
What about justice?
And whatever Lenny says. Thanks for your time. Thank you. We got to go. Thank you very much to King's Catering Hall.